The skies above Earth darkened as the massive ships of the Galactic Council entered orbit in the summer of 2137. Humanity watched with a mix of wonder and fear as these vessels, each larger than the largest human cities, positioned themselves in perfect geometric patterns above major population centers. The 17 alien species that made up the Council had traveled across countless light years with a message of peace and progress, or so they claimed. Dr. Kim Ji-woo stood at the window of her office in the United Earth Government headquarters in New Seoul, her eyes fixed on the shimmer of the Council mothership, visible even in daylight. As Earth's chief diplomat and negotiator, she had spent the last 3 weeks in intensive meetings with the Council representatives, tall, elegant, beings with iridescent skin who called themselves the Founders. "They're offering us the stars," said her assistant, handing her yet another data tablet filled with Council technology proposals. Kim ran her fingers through her short black hair and sighed. "Yes, but look at the fine print." She pointed to section 37 of the Integration Protocols. "They want oversight of all our military development. They're asking us to dismantle 70% of our space fleet, and these technology gifts they're offering, they all have built-in limitations." Across the Pacific Ocean, in the underwater military command center beneath Pearl Harbor, Admiral Park Hyun was reaching similar conclusions through different means. A stocky man with calm eyes that missed nothing, Park had spent his career studying warfare in all its forms. Now he studied the Council ships through Earth's most powerful telescopes. "Run the scan again," he ordered his team of analysts. "Those aren't just defensive shields they're carrying." Lieutenant Choi nodded, her fingers flying over her console. "Sir, we've confirmed it. Behind those decorative hull patterns are weapon ports. Their energy readings suggest offensive capabilities at least 50 years beyond our most advanced systems." Park nodded grimly. "And yet in all their talks with Dr. Kim, they've described themselves as peaceful explorers who rarely need to defend themselves." He tapped his command table thoughtfully. "So either they're lying about who they are, or they're lying about what they expect to find out here." Over the next few months, as the Council representatives spread across Earth, offering technological wonders and cultural exchanges, a secret initiative took shape. Dr. Kim established a hidden network of observers and analysts working outside official channels. What they discovered painted a disturbing picture. On a rainy night in October, Kim met Park in an old-fashioned tea house in Busan. The place was chosen for its lack of modern technology that could be monitored. "It's worse than we thought," Kim said quietly, sliding a paper folder across the wooden table. "My team found references in their historical databases. The Council has done this before, many times." Park opened the folder, reviewing hand-drawn copies of alien text and diagrams. "They find developing worlds offer guidance, and then they slowly take control. The restrictions get tighter each decade. The 17 species in the Council, only the original 5 have any real power. The others are what they call client races, glorified servants who think they're partners." Kim's voice was tight with anger. "The Nari species tried to break away 300 years ago. Their home planet is now a mining colony." Park closed the folder. "They see us as children, dangerous children who need to be controlled." "Yes. They were alarmed by how quickly we developed after our Industrial Revolution. Our rate of progress frightens them." Kim sipped her tea, her dark eyes troubled. "They don't plan to destroy us, they just plan to limit us. Forever." Outside, Council ships glided silently through the clouds, their lights casting eerie patterns on the rainy streets. Inside stores and homes across the city, people marveled at the new medical treatments already being introduced, the cleaner energy systems, the promise of longer lives. "We need time," Park said finally. "We need to appear cooperative while we prepare." Kim nodded slowly. "I can do that. I can make them think we're grateful and a little slow, not quite understanding their advanced ideas." A bitter smile crossed her face. "I'll play the primitive human they expect. And I'll start gathering the right people," Park added. "Scientists, engineers, strategists, people who can keep secrets and think beyond conventional limits." As they prepared to leave, Kim paused. "They've been doing this for thousands of years. Park, They've perfected this process. What chance do we really have? Park stood, straightening his civilian clothes. His eyes, when they met hers, held a fierce determination that made him suddenly seem taller than his modest height. They've never met humans before, he said simply, and humans don't accept cages, no matter how pretty they are. As they stepped out into the rain, a council shuttle passed overhead, its lights cutting through the mist. To all appearances, Earth was welcoming its new friends with open arms. But beneath the smiles and handshakes, a resistance was taking root, one that would eventually shock the stars themselves. In the months that followed, while Dr. Kim charmed and delayed the council representatives with bureaucratic complications and cultural misunderstandings that needed clarification, Admiral Park quietly assembled a team of Earth's brightest minds. They would need to solve problems no human had even imagined before, and they would need to do it right under the watchful eyes of beings who had mastered interstellar travel when humans were still figuring out agriculture. The clock was ticking. The Council's patience was not infinite. But then again, neither was humanity's willingness to surrender its future. The Antarctic wind howled outside the research bunker, but Dr. Lee Do-hyun barely noticed. 3 years had passed since the Council's arrival, and for the last 18 months, she had lived in this underground complex with 47 other scientists. On paper, the facility didn't exist, just another research station monitoring. Ice melt. In reality, it was humanity's best hope. Another failure, Lee muttered, pushing away from her workstation. The piece of Council technology she'd been studying, supposedly a simple navigational component from their shuttles, had resisted all her attempts to understand its power source. Her assistant, Kang Jun, looked up from his own station. His eyes were red-rimmed from lack of sleep. Maybe we should try the approach Professor Han suggested? Lee shook her head. Too risky. The energy fluctuations would be detectable from orbit. She stretched, her lab coat tight across her shoulders. At 42, she was one of the world's leading experts in theoretical physics, though the Council representatives who occasionally met with her thought she was just another mid-level researcher at Seoul National University. "I need to think," she said, walking to the small break room where a pot of coffee perpetually brewed. The room was empty except for Song Mina, their quantum computing specialist, who was staring at the wall, lost in thought. "No luck?" Song asked, without looking away from the wall. "None." Lee poured herself coffee. "We're missing something basic. The Council tech uses principles we don't understand yet." Song finally turned. "Maybe that's the problem. We're trying to understand their technology on their terms." Lee paused mid-sip. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Song said, leaning forward, "we're assuming they've discovered everything there is to discover. But what if there are aspects of physics they've overlooked, paths they never took?" That night, Lee couldn't sleep. Song's words kept echoing in her mind. What if the Council, for all their advanced technology, had settled into scientific orthodoxy? What if there were approaches they'd never considered? At 3 a.m., she returned to the lab and began a new series of experiments. Instead of trying to replicate the Council's antimatter containment methods, she focused on the strange readings they'd detected at the edges of their energy fields, readings the Council components seemed designed to filter out as noise. 2 days later, the accident happened. Lee had modified the Council device to enhance rather than filter these edge readings. As she activated it, there was a flash of light that wasn't quite light, more like a darkening of everything else around. Every instrument in the lab went haywire, then dead. When they came back online hours later, something had changed. "It's impossible," Kang whispered, staring at the readings. In the center of their test chamber floated a small sphere of what appeared to be absolute darkness. "Not impossible," Lee said, her voice hushed with awe. "Just unknown. To us and to them." The sphere was a tiny amount of dark matter, the mysterious substance that made up over 85% of the universe's mass, but in a controlled, concentrated form never achieved before. The Council's technology had been designed to avoid interactions with dark matter, treating it as an inconvenience. Lee had accidentally discovered how to manipulate it directly. Within weeks, the discovery was carefully shared with other secret research sites around the world. Under the nose of Council observers, humanity began its greatest scientific leap forward. Admiral Park visited the Antarctic facility a month later, standing in stunned silence as Lee demonstrated a small engine that produced more power than a Yo nuclear reactor while remaining completely undetectable to Council sensors. "Can it be weaponized?" he asked finally. Lee met his eyes steadily. "Anything can be weaponized, but that's not the point. This is about mobility, stealth, and energy. With this, we can build ships that they can't see or track." "How soon? For a prototype? Maybe 2 years? For a fleet?" She shrugged. 5 years if everything goes perfectly." Park nodded slowly. "Dr. Kim says she can keep the Council distracted for that long. They think we're struggling with their basic technology, arguing among ourselves about how to implement it. I need somewhere to build," Lee said. "Somewhere they don't watch closely." That was how Project Shadowforge began. While Earth's official space program made a show of slowly adopting Council-approved technologies, a hidden initiative took shape in the most inhospitable place in the solar system, Mercury. The planet closest to the Sun was perfect for their needs. The searing heat of its day side and the freezing cold of its night created a Terminator line, a twilight zone where conditions were survivable. More importantly, the massive craters near Mercury's poles contained permanent shadows, where even the Council's routine solar system patrols never bothered to look closely. Inside those shadowed craters, construction began on massive underground facilities. Engineers and workers served 6-month rotations, telling their families they were working on mining operations in Earth's asteroid belt, another project that the Council actually encouraged as a way to keep humans busy with primitive resource gathering. The work was brutal. Even with cooling systems, temperatures regularly climbed to dangerous levels. Radiation shielding was a constant concern. 3 workers died in the first year alone, their sacrifices recorded in a secret memorial that would someday, they all hoped, be made public. But by the 4th year, the shipyards of Mercury had produced their first triumph, the TNS Dawnbringer, a vessel the size of an aircraft carrier, but visible to Council sensors only as a minor asteroid. Its dark matter drive could accelerate it to speeds the Council thought impossible for human technology, all while using less detectable energy than a typical communications satellite. "It's beautiful," whispered Captain Yu Seong as he toured, his new command for the first time. The ship's interior was Spartan, every gram of mass dedicated to essential systems rather than comfort. "How many more can we build before they notice?" Chief Engineer Bay checked her tablet. 5 more are already in production. If we maintain schedule and secrecy, we'll have 7 ships within 18 months. On Earth, the charade continued. Dr. Kim hosted Council representatives at elaborate cultural events, while politely requesting extensions on technology implementation timelines. Human leaders made a show of squabbling over which nations would receive Council assistance first, creating bureaucratic delays that the aliens found tedious but unsurprising from such a young species. "They're getting impatient," Kim told Park during one of their secure meetings. "Especially Councillor Ryu. He started hinting at more direct oversight if we can't show better progress soon." Park's face remained impassive, but his eyes gleamed. "Let them come." The Dawnbringer completed its first full stealth trial yesterday. They flew within 50 kilometers of a Council patrol vessel, and there wasn't a flicker on their sensors. Kim allowed herself a small smile. 5 years of bowing and scraping. It's almost worth it. "It will be," Park promised, "when they realize that the primitive humans they've been trying to cage have already slipped the lock." The Council chamber in Geneva gleamed with polished marble and towering windows that looked out over Lake Geneva. 7 years had passed since humanity's first contact with the 17 species of the Galactic Council, and the meeting taking place today was not going well. Councillor Ryu Taiho sat with perfect posture in the center chair, his scaled skin catching the sunlight and refracting it in patterns across the chamber floor. Unlike some Council species who use translation devices, Ryu had learned perfect English, finding it simplistic but adequate. His species, the Vaughn, had been spacefaring when humans were still living in caves, a fact he mentioned in nearly every meeting. "Your progress is unacceptable," he said, voice carrying easily across the room. 7 years of guidance, and Earth still struggles with the most basic implementation of Council technology standards. Dr. Kim Ji-woo, now serving as Earth Secretary of Extraterrestrial Affairs, kept her expression neutral. "Counselor, as I've explained, our political systems require consensus. Our people need time to... Time is precisely what you have exhausted." Ryu interrupted. The fins along his neck flared slightly, a sign of irritation that the human diplomats had learned to recognize. "The Council's patience has limits, Secretary Kim." Behind Kim sat representatives from 12 nations, all wearing the same concerned expressions. They had been briefed on what was likely coming today. Nearby, in a smaller chair designed for his stocky human frame, Admiral Park Hyun watched silently, his dress uniform immaculate, his hands folded in his lap. Councillor Mella, a gas-breathing entity who required a containment suit on Earth, spoke next. Her voice came through a translator with a slight metallic echo. Perhaps the humans would advance more quickly with additional supervision. Their tendency toward weapons development remains concerning. Kim resisted the urge to glance at Park. The Council still believed Earth's military capabilities were limited to what they'd seen. A few hundred conventional satellites, a handful of small lunar bases, and rudimentary fusion technology. If they only knew about the 7 dark matter warships hidden in Mercury's shadow, or the 20 smaller vessels that now regularly patrolled the solar system, completely invisible to Council sensors. "We've adhered to all weapon restriction protocols," Kim said calmly. "Our military development has been transparent and within guidelines." Ryu's laugh was cold. "Transparent, yes. Because you have so little to hide." He leaned forward. "Secretary Kim, I will be direct. The Council's assessment concludes that Earth's integration is proceeding too slowly and with too many, let us call them cultural resistances." The room went very quiet. Park noticed how the other Council representatives seemed to shift in their seats, some looking uncomfortable, others nodding in agreement with Ryu. "The Council has therefore voted to implement Oversight Protocol 7, Ryu continued. Effective immediately, Earth will accept permanent Council administrative presence with authority over technology transfer, resource allocation, and security matters. This is not a request." Despite knowing this was coming, Kim felt her heart pound. "And if Earth declines this arrangement?" Ryu's eyes narrowed, vertical pupils contracting to thin slits. "Then Containment Protocol 3 will be initiated. Your planet will be placed under blockade. No ships in or out. No further technology transfer. Earth will be isolated until your leadership reaches a more cooperative mindset." One of the human diplomats, the representative from Kenya, half rose from her seat in protest, but Kim raised a hand slightly, and she sat back down. "How long before this takes effect?" Kim asked, her voice steady. "The oversight team is already prepared. They would begin work within 14 Earth days," Ryu said. "The alternative, blockade, would commence immediately upon your refusal." Kim nodded slowly, as if considering this impossible situation. Then she looked at Park, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. "The people of Earth request a formal hearing before the full Galactic Council," Kim said, invoking an ancient right that even the most arrogant Council members couldn't deny outright. "We wish to present our case at the Council capital before such dramatic measures are implemented." Ryu seemed surprised, then amused. "You wish to travel to Hegemony Prime, to address all 17 Council species in formal assembly?" His fins rippled with what humans had learned was laughter. "Very well. It will change nothing, but it is your right to be heard before containment begins." Later, as the Council representatives filed out of the chamber, Mella approached Kim privately. "Secretary, I advise you to reconsider your position," the gas being said quietly. "Councillor Ryu speaks for the majority. The hearing will only delay the inevitable." "Thank you for your concern," Kim replied, "but Earth must exercise all options available to us." After the Council members had departed, the human delegation gathered in a secure room beneath the building. "They're finally showing their true faces," the Brazilian representative said, pounding his fist on the table. 7 years of condescension and fake smiles, and now the mask comes off. Park, who had been silent throughout the meeting, finally spoke. Actually, their timing is perfect. All eyes turned to him. The TNS Stormbreaker completed its final trials last week, he continued. All 7 ships are fully operational. The moment Secretary Kim requested the hearing, Captain Yu received his orders. Kim's phone buzzed with an encrypted message. She read it and allowed herself a small smile. The Stormbreaker just left Mercury's shadow. The other ships are already on their way to their assigned positions. What positions? Asked the representative from India. Park activated a holographic display showing a map of Council space. Territory spanning hundreds of light years. 7 small blue dots were moving into position around key points, major Council homeworlds, military installations, and at the center, Hegemony Prime itself. By the time we arrive for our hearing, Park said, our fleet will be in position throughout Council space, completely undetected. And the Council's reaction when they discover this? The French diplomat asked nervously. Kim's expression was grim. They've left us no choice. They came to our home and offered us friendship with one hand, while holding a leash behind their back. For 7 years we've played the part they expected. Grateful, slightly slow-witted children. But no more. Park nodded. The Council believes they're bringing us to Hegemony Prime to deliver a sentence. Instead, they're inviting us to the perfect stage to reveal the truth. Humanity will never accept being controlled. And if they choose conflict? Someone asked quietly. Park's expression remained calm, but his eyes were hard as steel. Then they'll learn another truth about humans. We fight hardest when cornered. As the meeting continued, 200 million kilometers. Away, the TNS Stormbreaker slipped past Mars, its dark matter drive leaving no energy signature for Council sensors to detect. On its bridge, Captain Yu Seong looked at the small Earth visible on his view screen, growing more distant by the second. Course. Locked in for the Council capital, his navigator reported. Estimated arrival, 17 days before the diplomatic delegation. Yu nodded. Perfect. Let's go make history. None of them spoke the fear they all shared, that this mission could end in either humanity's greatest triumph or the beginning of an interstellar war they might not survive. But as the Stormbreaker accelerated to speeds the Council thought impossible for human vessels, one thing was certain. The days of pretending to be less than they were had finally come to an end. Hegemony Prime glowed like a jewel against the blackness of space. The planet's 3 moons formed a perfect triangle above its emerald continents and sapphire oceans. Dr. Kim Ji-woo stood at the viewing port of the Council transport ship, taking in the sight of the Galactic Council's capital. "World, impressive, isn't it?" said a voice behind her. Admiral Park Hyun joined her at the window, his reflection appearing beside hers in the reinforced glass. 12,000 years of galactic dominance built this, and they think it will stand for 12,000 more, Kim replied quietly. They've never faced a real challenge. The human delegation had spent 3 weeks traveling to Hegemony Prime aboard a Council vessel. The journey had been comfortable but tense, with their Council escorts treating them with the polite condescension reserved for children about to be disciplined. "Any word from Captain Yu?" Kim whispered, though they both knew the Council's surveillance couldn't penetrate the quantum scramblers they wore as simple wristwatches. Park gave a slight nod. "The Stormbreaker is in position above this very planet. The other ships have reached their targets as well. And they remain undetected? Completely. Council traffic continues normally. No alerts, no increased security measures." Kim took a deep breath. "Then today we either secure our freedom or we start a war," Park finished. "But it won't be just us fighting it." The Council chamber was even more impressive in person than in the images humans had seen over the past 7 years. A vast dome of some crystalline material arched overhead, showing the stars beyond as if no structure existed at all. 17 raised platforms formed a circle, each bearing the representatives of one Council species. In the center, like accused, criminals, stood the human delegation. Nearly 1,000 Council members filled the chamber, with many more watching via direct neural feeds across their worlds. This was to be a public demonstration, a reminder to all species of the consequences of defying Council authority. The Grand Speaker, an ancient being from one of the founding council races, raised 4 of his 6 limbs for silence. Kim noticed that unlike in their meetings on Earth, here the council made no effort to appear more humanoid. Their true forms were on full display, some beautiful, some terrifying, all absolutely alien. "We gather today to address the petition of Earth," the Grand Speaker's voice resonated through the chamber. "Though I must note that in the 12,000 cycles of council history, no petition has ever reversed a security decision once made." Polite laughter rippled through the assembly. This was a show, Kim realized. They had already decided. "Before the council delivers its ruling," Kim said, stepping forward, "Earth requests the right to present its case." Councillor Ryu Taiho, seated at the Vaughn platform, made a dismissive gesture. "We have reviewed all relevant data. Your species continues to show concerning tendencies toward aggression and resource competition. Your rate of technological development, if left unchecked, presents a destabilizing influence. These facts are not in dispute." "With respect, Councillor," Kim replied, her voice steady, "they are very much in dispute. Humanity has complied with every restriction placed upon it. We have shared our culture, our art, our philosophy. We have opened our world to council presence. And yet you speak as if we have somehow failed a test we were never told we were taking." The Grand Speaker's compound eyes shifted slightly. "Secretary, Kim, the council does not test. We guide. Some species require firmer guidance than others." "Like the Nari?" Kim asked. A murmur went through the chamber. "Or the Pella, or the dozen other client races whose development was permanently arrested because they showed too much independence." "You overstep," Councillor Ryu said sharply. "Those species were protected from their own self-destructive tendencies. As humans, will be protected?" Kim's voice rose slightly. "The Nari homeworld is now a mining operation. The Pella exist only as servants on council worlds. Is that protection or is it subjugation?" The Grand Speaker raised his limbs again. "This discussion serves no purpose. The council has deliberated and the decision is made." He turned to Councillor Ryu. "You may deliver the council's ruling." Ryu stood, his scaled skin gleaming under the starlight. "Earth will submit to full oversight, effective immediately. A council governance team will assume control of all technological development, resource allocation, and security operations. Independent human space travel will be suspended indefinitely." He looked directly at Kim. "This is not punishment. It is necessary guidance for a species not yet ready for true galactic citizenship." Admiral Park stepped forward to stand beside Kim. His face remained impassive, but she could sense the tension in him. This was the moment everything would change. "And if we refuse?" Park asked. Ryu's fins rippled with amusement. "Then Earth will be quarantined. No ships in or out, no communications, no trade, for as long as it takes for your leadership to reach a more reasonable position." Kim looked around the chamber, at the faces and forms of beings who had never seen, humans as equals. Then she raised her wrist and tapped her watch 3 times. "Before you implement that decision," she said calmly, "there's something the council should see." The dome above them suddenly flickered. The view of stars was replaced by 6 split-screen images. Each showed a massive ship of unfamiliar design, hovering in orbit above different worlds. One of those worlds Kim knew was Hegemony Prime itself. The chamber erupted in confusion. Security officers rushed forward. The Grand Speaker rose to his full height. "What is the meaning of this?" Ryu demanded, his fins now fully extended in alarm. Kim gestured to the images overhead. "Those are human vessels, 7 of them, positioned above your homeworlds, your key military installations, and this capital." "Impossible," the Grand Speaker said. "Our sensors would have detected—" "Your sensors detect what they're designed to detect," Park interrupted. "Dark matter manipulation exists outside your technological framework. Our ships are invisible to your systems, as they have been throughout their journey here." To demonstrate the point, one of the ships on the display briefly activated its engines. The energy output readings that appeared beside the image showed power levels that caused several council members to make sounds of disbelief. Then a new voice filled the chamber, Captain Yu, speaking from the bridge of the Stormbreaker. "This is Captain Yu Seong of the Terran naval ship Stormbreaker to the Galactic Council. We are currently positioned in high orbit above Hegemony Prime, with weapons systems powered and targeting protocols engaged. Similar vessels are in position, above 6 other critical Council worlds. We await orders from Secretary Kim and Admiral Park. The silence that followed was absolute. Kim could almost feel the Council members' neural networks buzzing as they frantically communicated with their defense forces, confirming what should have been impossible. Human warships had penetrated their most secure systems without detection. "This is an act of war," Ryu finally said, his voice slightly higher than before. "No," Kim replied firmly. "This is a negotiation between equals, which is what we have always wanted." Park stepped forward. "For 7 years, the Council has treated humanity as children to be managed. You assumed our compliance came from ignorance rather than choice. You never considered that while we appeared to struggle with your basic technology, we might be developing our own path forward. The Council does not respond to threats," the Grand Speaker said, though with noticeably less certainty than before. "Then don't see this as a threat," Kim offered. "See it as a demonstration of why your fundamental assumption about humanity is wrong. We are not dangerous because we're aggressive or unstable. We're dangerous because we adapt. We solve problems in ways you haven't considered. We find paths you overlooked." On the displays above, the human ships maintained their positions, weapons ready but not firing. The message was clear without being stated. Humanity could have struck without warning. Instead, they had chosen to talk. "What do you want?" asked another Council member, one of the quieter species who rarely spoke in full sessions. Kim smiled for the first time since arriving on Hegemony Prime. "What we have always wanted. To join the galactic community as equals, not subjects. To develop on our own path, not one predetermined for us. To be allies, not servants." The Grand Speaker conferred rapidly with other Council members, using both verbal and neural communications. The chamber remained tense, with security forces standing by but clearly unsure what they could do against the threat looming above their capital. Finally, the Grand Speaker addressed the human delegation again. "The Council requests a brief recess to discuss this unexpected development." "Of course," Kim said graciously. "Our ships will remain in position during your deliberations, as a show of good faith." As the Council members filed out, Admiral Park leaned close to Kim. "They're terrified," he whispered, "not just of our ships, but of what this means, their entire system of control." Kim nodded. 12,000 years of never being challenged, until today. Throughout the Grand Chamber, the images of human warships continued to hover above, a silent reminder that the galaxy had just changed forever. The signing ceremony took place exactly 3 months after what historians would later call the Capital Standoff. On one side of the grand table sat 5 human representatives, led by Dr. Kim Ji-woo. On the other side sat the Grand Speaker and representatives from each of the founding Council species. The document between them, written in 17 languages, was deceptively simple. The Treaty of Hegemony Prime, establishing Earth as a fully sovereign entity with all the rights and privileges of a founding Council world. As Kim signed her name, she felt the weight of 7 years of deception lift from her shoulders. The path to this moment had been dangerous and uncertain, but they had succeeded where dozens of other species had failed. Earth would chart its own course among the stars, a historic moment, the Grand Speaker announced to the assembled dignitaries and media. His voice carried the appropriate gravity, but those who knew him well could detect the underlying tension. This was the first time in 12,000 years that the Council had been forced to treat a newcomer species as an equal. After the ceremony, Kim joined Admiral Park on a balcony overlooking the capital city's gleaming spires. Above them, visible, even in daylight, hung the TNS Stormbreaker, no longer hiding its presence. "They're still in shock," Park said quietly. "The Vaughn especially. Councillor Ryu hasn't been seen in public since the standoff." Kim nodded. "They're calculating how much they've lost, not just face but real power. The other client species are watching closely." That was an understatement. Within days of the capital standoff, delegations from 7 client races had quietly approached the human embassy, seeking meetings away from Council observers. Thanari, once proud warriors before their subjugation 3 centuries ago, had been the first. Their representative, Lor Zan, had gripped Kim's hand with surprising strength. "You've shown it can be done," he had whispered. "After all these cycles, you've shown the Council can be challenged." Back on Earth, 6 weeks after the treaty signing, Kim stood at the podium in the newly constructed Galactic Relations Center in New Seoul. Before her sat representatives from 14 species, some council members, others client races seeking a new path. "Today we announce the formation of the Free Worlds Alliance," she declared, "an association of sovereign planets committed to mutual defense, fair trade, and shared technological development." Unlike the Council's approach of domination and control, the Alliance respects the unique evolutionary path of each member species. The announcement sent shockwaves through Council space. 3 of the newer Council species immediately applied for Alliance membership, effectively splitting from their former masters. The Nari and Pella, despite threats of economic sanctions, declared their independence and requested Alliance protection. Not everyone supported these changes. In a closed session of the Vorn Leadership Council, Ryu Taiho pounded his scaled fist against the ancient stone table. "They humiliated us," he hissed to his fellow elders. "They threatened our homeworlds. And now we reward them with a treaty. We should gather our fleets and crush this human rebellion before it spreads further." Elder Vin, the oldest of the Vorn, leaders, slowly shook his head. "Did you not observe their vessels? The energy readings? The dark matter technology they've developed is beyond our current capabilities. A direct conflict now would be unwise." "Then we bide our time," Ryu insisted. "We learn their weaknesses. Every species has them. Meanwhile, on Mercury, the shipyards that had once operated in absolute secrecy now worked at full capacity in the open." Admiral Park walked the assembly line, where the latest dark matter cruiser was taking shape, twice the size of the original Stormbreaker. 30 vessels by year's end, reported Fleet Commander Bay, who had been promoted after the capital standoff. "And we've approved the technology sharing agreement with the Nari. Their engineers arrive next month to begin training." Park nodded in approval. "And the defense grid? Construction begins next week. Dark matter detection arrays around all Alliance worlds. If the Council tries to move against any of us, we'll know immediately." The Admiral placed his hand on the hull of the new warship. "They won't accept this new reality easily. The Vorn, especially. 12,000 years of dominance doesn't end without a fight." "Let them try," Bay said with quiet confidence. "We're not the same humans they found 7 years ago." Indeed, Earth itself had transformed. Council technology, now freely available without restrictions, had accelerated human development in medicine, agriculture, and environmental restoration. The dark matter breakthrough had revolutionized energy production, making clean power abundant worldwide. The first civilian ships equipped with dark matter drives were already under construction, promising to make travel throughout the solar system as common as air travel had once been on Earth. 6 months after the treaty signing, humanity faced its first major test. A Council patrol fleet claiming to be conducting routine exercises entered the Nari system unannounced. Their actual purpose was clear: to intimidate the newly independent species. Within hours, 3 human warships materialized in the system, having traveled faster than the Council believed possible. Their commander opened a channel to the Council fleet. "This is Captain Kang of the Alliance vessel Defiance. The Nari system is under Alliance protection. Your presence here without prior notification violates the Treaty of Hegemony Prime, Section 12. You are requested to withdraw immediately." The Council commander bristled at taking orders from a human, but after a tense standoff, ordered his fleet to retreat. News of the incident spread quickly through former client worlds. The message was clear: the Alliance would defend its members, and human warships could appear anywhere, anytime. On the Council capital, the Grand Speaker met privately with representatives of the founding species. Their discussion was not recorded, but insiders reported heated debate about how to respond to humanity's growing influence. "We face a choice," the Grand Speaker reportedly said. "Adapt to this new reality or risk everything in a conflict we might not win." The division within the Council deepened. 3 of the founding species, including the Vorn, began increasing military spending and strengthening ties with loyal client races. The other 2 founding species, initiated diplomatic outreach to the alliance, seeking compromise and cooperation. 1 year after the capital standoff, Dr. Kim stood on the observation deck of the newly completed Alliance headquarters station in HFY Earth orbit. Through the viewport she could see the blue marble of Earth, now ringed by orbital shipyards and research stations. A small fleet of dark matter ships patrolled nearby, a constant reminder that humanity would never again be vulnerable. "Did you ever imagine this?" asked Admiral Park, joining her at the window. "When we started 7 years ago playing the role of the grateful backward humans," Kim smiled. "I hoped. But I never expected such a complete transformation of the Galactic Order." "They still want to control us," Park said seriously. "The Vaughn faction especially. Our intelligence suggests they're developing new sensor technologies, trying to counter our dark matter advantage." "Let them try," Kim replied, echoing Bay's words from months earlier. "We won't stop advancing either." As if to emphasize her point, a new vessel emerged from Earth's shadow, the TNS Pathfinder, the first of humanity's deep space explorers. Unlike the warships, this vessel was designed for a different purpose: to seek out worlds beyond Council space, to make contact with species the Council had never found or had deliberately avoided. "The Council spent 12,000 years building walls," Kim said, watching the ship accelerate away. "We're going to build bridges." The Galactic Order that had stood unchanging for 12 millennia had been shattered by humanity's refusal to accept the role assigned to them. As the Pathfinder disappeared into the darkness of space, it carried with it humanity's message to the cosmos. "We come not as conquerors, not as subjects, but as equals, ready to forge a new future among the stars."